Excellencies, Senor Alvaro Esteban Pop, Chairperson of the on Indigenous Issues, distinguished members of the Permanent Forum, representatives of indigenous peoples and civil society, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to join all of you for the closing of the 15th session of the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. Through the years, I have had the pleasure of participating in many sessions. I have also had the privilege of visiting several indigenous peoples' communities around the world. In the process, I have gained a deeper understanding of your historical struggles, your contributions to Mother Earth and human living, your cultural expressions, as well as the endangered situation of your languages. I have also heard your calls for recognition as indigenous peoples. My message to you is clear. I'm with you. I'm with you. We have Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. We have made important strides together at the United Nations. In September 2007, we adopted the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. In 2014, we convened the World Conference on Indigenous Peoples. Both of these milestones were the result of close partnerships between indigenous peoples and member states. As a follow-up to the 2014 World Conference, we now have a system-wide action plan on indigenous peoples. Indigenous peoples are firmly on the United Nations agenda, thanks in large measure to your efforts. Indigenous peoples were fully engaged in negotiations for the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. Now it is crucial that indigenous peoples everywhere participate in and contribute to implementation and follow-up. States must be held accountable for implementing the 2030 Agenda with full respect for the rights and minimum standards guaranteed for indigenous peoples in the United Nations. For indigenous peoples in the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen, while much has been achieved, much remains to be done. For example, conflicts on the land and territories of indigenous peoples and the lack of inclusion of indigenous voices in peace processes remain a challenge. I call on all member states, on indigenous peoples, and the entire UN system to work together as concerns. As you know, the President of the General Assembly has launched consultations on enabling the participation of indigenous peoples, representatives, and institutions in meetings of relevant UN bodies. I urge you to remain engaged and actively participate in this important consultation process. Finally, since this is my final opportunity to address this forum as a Secretary General, allow me to express my heartfelt thanks to all of you for your dedication, your inspiration, your openness, and your generosity. You can always count on me and the United Nations. We will continue to integrate the rights of indigenous peoples into international human rights and development agendas. We will promote the integration of indigenous peoples' rights in policies and programs at all levels. With your help, we will ensure that the vision of the UN Declaration becomes a reality. I thank you. Muchas gracias. Merci beaucoup.